Surprise! I figured this. Everybody's got enough on their plate and enough in their head after this year for December. So I'll start putting the extendeds on Vimeo in January. But for this month, it's my holiday gift to you. Cool, huh? Hi, air signs. Let's move right into the extended. And FYI, I dealt with everything that relates to the individual lines in the main portion of the reading. So basically here, this is for clarification. And it's also for talking a bit about the blending of the energies, or how the yin and the yang lines can and could work together. Okay, here we go. So, beginning with the yin and the yang lines. You see how we've got columns here, we've got rows here, sure, certainly, but we've got columns here that can work vertically, straight up and down. We've also got diagonals here for a cross reference. The big point about it is the team that is versatile and the team that believes in the opportunity presented to take the best of what you have and max it. Use it to the max. That's the team that is got the most likelihood of getting where they want to go. You set your goal, you set your intention, you set your aim, and especially with, of course, this December 21st conjunction, and then you proceed. But you don't proceed blindly. You don't proceed like the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, three monkeys kind of thing. You don't proceed that way. You proceed with intention. You proceed with your eyes wide open, your ears wide open, fully open, fully connected, fully integrated. And of course, that could sound very idealistic, but isn't that the goal? To be the best that we can be. Okay. So you may recall from the main reading, we talked a bit about the strength and the kickoff dynamic here. Remember, just a brief review, we've got the yin line all ready to rock and roll, feeling the itch, wanting to move forward, and having been stumped somehow, having been stymied in the ability to actually take the step. Here, we have the yang line, and the yang line is carrying kind of the key to that dynamic. Key to the door that opens activity. Fascinatingly enough, the friction that's created by the antsiness that wants to move is got the ending at the Nine of Swords, the tipping point, the point at which you can almost fall forward into the next step, and you want to. That's the big point here. With the yin line, you want to move forward. It's not like you're, it's pulling teeth or anything. And that we've got right below that the gateway through which the moving forward seems to need to happen from this reading. So we want to start with as much impetus as possible, with as much in our fuel tank as possible. And how is that accomplished? Bank upon these folks here. Bank upon the magician along with the Ace of Wands. Right? So, yang line, we talked about the wish to move here. Yang line, if you recall, we were talking about, is kind of the keeper of that grounded understanding that hasn't had a chance to reveal itself yet. The grounded understanding of that awareness that relates to what we have to do, to look to the yin line and go, yes, this is what we have to do. Would you like to go together? Can we find a way to go together? Right here are the two. They end up there together. The puzzle here, the way to work it out is how to get to that place. It's almost like, can we move like a whirlwind in this fashion and push everything into this card? Is it going to be coming from the diagonal shadow? Is it going to be sufficient just to have the 9 energy to move it down? Know what you know what you know. And so you take all that, don't have to talk about it, just talk about getting here now. So it's a matter of what your composition is. What are you made up of? What are the components of your particular machine? The machine of you and your partner. And you have a good start here. You have a nice, absolutely powerful, exciting, ambitious starting place here. Look at the size of this wand. There's a reason why it's that big. Because it's big. It has that potential. Full of the potential to burst forward for something. And the something is what you determine. Okay. Now, talk about the changes that need to take place to get here. Well, when I first just looked at this, I saw this 5 of Swords card reaching out to all 3 of these cards to funnel the energy in for a concentrated dose of how do you interpret the challenge that's in here. And there's got to be some vision attached to it. Got to be a visualization of where you guys want to go. And it's fascinating because here, if you look at this card, you see that the mermaid is lying there with her fingertips trailing in the water and just dibbling, dabbling. And it's almost like the importance of this dynamic here is that if you can see this and see this and not know how to do this, but know how to do this, why not try in order to maximize the abilities of what you do here? Look at it as it's the opposite of this. You took your time with the 4 of Cups to visualize, to lay back. Now, move that. You've restored yourself. Move that here. Okay, so that's kind of the thing. What it is that you want and where it is you want to go is for you. That's what you determine. I can't see your life. And so it's where you want to go and what you want to do is going to be very particular and very distinct. It's yours. Okay. What we're talking about is the tool chest that you bring so you can pull the correct tools out of there that will support and empower what you do with your vision. And now, let's talk about the divine, celestial, archetypal influences and how do they work as an umbrella, as an oversight for this is really nuts and bolts stuff. Now we move into the higher realms about the nuts and bolts stuff, always with the idea of reaching out to the stars, reaching out to that place where from whence comes the spiritual guidance. Guidance, right? This is the guidance line. So the situation is, if you look at it like a tower moment, a transition moment, that whatever you come up with, that's the level that it equals, is something that shakes your world, that changes everything under your feet. Then you stand a much better chance of looking it squarely in the face as it comes. If you go into denial or avoidance, it'll sneak up, and then you're forced to play catch up. What I'm proposing is that you take the situation that we were talking about the celestial influence, the divine guidance. Look at it as maybe it hasn't happened yet, but that you're aware that the train's coming down the track. And who do you have to go with you into that experience? You can't do better than the high priestess. And if you recall from the main reading, we're talking about the lunar influence here. And then with your asset, talking about the lunar influence in the chariot and the charioteer. So, yeah, you're going to end up taking action when you deal here. But you have got to realize what kind of action it is. It may be invisible. It may be some things that come from the depths. It may be dealing with issues that have been with you all your lives, and maybe they just haven't come into the limelight yet, but now they can. And December 21st is a good time to bring them out. You know, if you were to look at it like airing out your, let's say, the clothes or the blankets or whatever that you put into storage for a season, and now the season is here to start to use that clothing or those blankets, you take them out and you air them out. Put them out in the sun, in the breeze, and let that power do its work. Okay? Well, similarly, you can air out things. Okay, if they're down there, if they're in the moon, if they're in the things that are unseen realms, they're maybe not so available or not under consideration to air them out. And yet, that can be some of the most important, in fact, it is some of the most important things at a given time. So it's coming to me that in this particular reading, that's where your activity is. Sure, the chariot and the charioteer is all about that dynamic energy, horsepower that's released when the chariot takes off the starting line. Boom, goes from no motion to full-on motion quickly, right? But in this particular case, what if you have that kind of dynamic that's no one else knows it's happening? It's still got the same feeling to it. In fact, it might even have more feelings, but it doesn't look like it, not from the outside. So that's probably something that, if there's a little thumb drive that needs to be inserted in this operation, that's one thing that's recorded on the thumb drive is this element. Yes, the priestess is there, and she's got something to say about mysteries for you both. And yeah, you got the charioteer here, and you got the chariot, and you got the power of the earth moving through space and time behind you. But on your thumb drive is the IE. Oh, by the way, this might not look like it. It can feel like it. Your thoughts can be engaged. Head and heart, right? Head and heart. So these are probably working in tandem. The challenge and the strength. So you are going to be able to combine those two energies. Like this is another dynamic like was up here. This doesn't look like this in a big way, dynamically. But using them to contrast one another really makes a more strategic move than if you don't. And using these the same way, the priestess and the chariot, using those the same way, they are unlike each other, and yet using them in combo for a perspective, for a contrast perspective, helps. It makes your tool into amazing, like you're a multi-tool. One tool turns into 3 or 4. Last but not least, and I talked about this before in the main reading, but Justice here, she's really, you want to talk about anxiety here. Justice here, or some itch or friction. Justice here is going, I know that too. I feel that too. I feel an itch. What's Justice's itch though? Justice's itch is to be allowed to have the total control in the background of the approach. The approach here wants to be nothing less than total truth and total balance. Okay, so let me throw out a few cards here. I was curious about where exactly does the magician want to apply his influence, because he's sitting up there kind of looking the other way. But I mean, I get the impression that he's doing that in this particular reading because he's not going to spend time watching while all the decision making that needs to be done in here gets done. He's ready to go and perform when all that is taken care of. Getting your ducks in a row in terms of where are you going and what do you want? Then he'll step in. But I wanted to see if the cards could say where that wants to be. King of Wands. 2 of Swords. Queen of Wands. Wow. Well, first of all, I can see right here that the king and the queen want to be, this is really the king and the queen in different clothing, in a different location. But inside them, they're never, this is just an external appearance. They don't look any more like that than they do like that. They're the beings, though. They're the souls that travel. And here, they're making a strong statement. They're the focus for where the magician, remember I was asking where the magician wants to apply the influence. It's in the togetherness. It's in the togetherness of the yin and the yang energy. In some way, this dynamic of getting to here, which is maybe not the most fun place to have to go, wants to be done so the royalty factor can take place. The ultimate leadership and nurturing and beauty. That unseen things at this moment will be revealed. And actually, to be revealed is what the magician's job is all about. Setting up the trick and then revealing the trick. And that's where he wants to be involved. And fascinating enough, here we have in the middle the 2 of Swords. And that's the card of making the choice. When the hero is offered the choice of going on the journey to fulfillment and to enlightenment, the number 2, that step on the hero's journey is the one where he either accepts or refuses. So once again, this reading is so strong in how amazing it is to have the power of choice, that you two together have that power of choice together. And you can choose one choice that pertains to both of you. How beautiful is that? So I also want to see if the cards want to say anything about the devil. Why do the players here need or want to go see the dark side of, or their shadow side? And what's to be said about that? 7 of Cups. Page of Swords. Queen of Cups. So the Queen wants to be heard in the visit to the Diablo, El Diablo. And getting there with your head on straight as a unit, make your team a unit when you go to the shadow side. I mean, there's a lot of preliminary work, and I think that's where all these other cards are at. A lot of preliminary to getting to this stage where you go to the devil's realm, to the shadows, there has to be a lot of light infused into the picture. And if you didn't already have some of that light to work with, these cards wouldn't be talking to you like, grown-ups. Like, there's no nonsense here. You're ready. And it's looking like it's something that has been in the mix. And now, in order for this to happen, is going to be taking the same thing and putting a new cloak on it, a new mask on it, a new way of looking at it, a paradigm shift. Something old that can be captured and made new again. Last but not least, 4 cards for the majors. So we have the Tower, and the Tower gets the Seven of Swords. So I'm saying that the situation that's here, you're going to be able to make it fun in one way through this card, I think. And that is be sly, be sneaky. I mean, it's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? If you try and be sneaky while being totally honest and open, it changes it from something that's morosely serious to something that's kind of fun and engaging, because there's a solve the mystery kind of component to it. What does the High Priestess want to say? She's pointing at justice. What does the High Priestess want to say? She's pointing at justice. But she's not pointing. These cards have a front side and the back side. Back side is implying that you've got this under your belt. So maybe that was part of your original attraction to one another. That you knew what it was like to have that total truth and that total balance. You got glimpses. They were handed to you by the divine. And now it's time to use what you got. There's a bit of a call about kind of payback. It's time to be able to bring what you were given and now to use it consciously. That makes sense? That you were given it as a freebie with no strings attached. It's just that it's time now to take that freebie and to apply it with eyes wide open, ears wide open, heart wide open. It's going to be fun. Your strength? Okay. This card right here is the star card that's going along with your asset. That your asset already was a chariot. Well, now here's another manifestation of that same energy, which we were talking about as the chariot having a dynamic energy, and yet you might not be able to see it on the outside, right? And here's some reinforcement that brilliant sense of self, that completion and fruition of the whole consciousness of your whole integrated being. And in this case, we're talking about you, two individuals functioning as one, two that are actually one. And that one is filtered and synthesized through the energy of the star card. And air signs, right? Here's your Aquarius card. How beautiful is that? But in addition to being beautiful, there's an elegance to the beauty. That elegance being highlighted by the pouring of water, the water bearer. What does that mean? I mean, if you're an Aquarius, you are a water bearer, and what does that mean? But you're an air sign. Air sign, pouring water. It's an element. It's an element that flows. And so why can't we talk about pouring the element of air? In this case, that's the beauty. And air, as you can see, she is not being discriminating about whether she's pouring it onto the earth or the water. Both are important. And her direction forward is through the freedom that she's feeling to do so. The freedom to pour with equanimity onto both surfaces. Fantastic. Justice, what do you want to say? Justice wants to emphasize the highlight of balance on the earth. Bring it, anything that you accomplish through your next moves. Perhaps make sure that you don't forget that you are a spirit in a material world, so that you stay connected. With air signs, you don't want to get too lofty and too floaty so that you lose your sense of you're on the earth. So be on the earth and be in heaven at the same time. And that's it for now. What a beautiful reading, folks. Have a good December 21st. Have a good holiday season. Bye. Love y'all.